If you have any questions, feel free to ask me during my presentation. Sometimes we kind of forget if we wait too long. I'll give you a little bit of my background just real quick. I've been with Edison 11 years. I started as a meter reader, and then I became an account manager working with our commercial and industrial customers on things like energy efficiency and demand response. And now I've been a program manager in automated demand response for 4 years. So if you guys have some little sub-questions, regarding some business issues or maybe rates or anything like that, maybe I can try to answer a couple of them or point you in the correct direction to get those questions answered. So I'm just kind of happy to help you guys however I can. I have plenty of business cards to give out. So I just want to make sure that when you leave today, if there's anything you need after that, we're still able to give you that follow-up service. I always like to start with Edison's mission statement. I'm just going to kind of breeze over it, but we've been around for more than 125 years. As you travel around the United States, you'll see a lot of companies with the name Edison in them. Obviously, that all is because of Thomas Edison. That doesn't mean we're all related. Edison, Southern California Edison is a subsidiary of Edison International. But you see a lot of Edisons all over on the East Coast. Currently, we're not attached. Edison's primary responsibility and mission is the commitment to keeping electricity safe, reliable, and affordable. And that's a lot of where Ijari's permanent load shift program comes in, my automated demand response program comes in. That has to do with safe, reliable, and affordable, because our program will help offset costs and maintain stability. And I'll get into a little bit of that in the presentation. But all of we're all geared to that. We're not just a pole and line company. That's where our primary source of income is, but we are a very large company. We have about 14,000 employees, and our service territory is more than 50,000 square miles throughout California. It's kind of neat, we service over 24 languages. If you call our phone center, all of those languages are available. We have representatives to work with pretty much any culture language you can think of, so it's a pretty neat thing. We're very proud of our award-winning energy efficiency and demand response programs. Energy efficiency is what you could say a permanent load reduction. You take out an outdated or less efficient piece of equipment, you put in one that's more efficient, and that energy savings is permanent energy savings. And we have the top energy efficiency program in the country. No one provides more energy savings than Southern California Edison. And our demand response programs we also do very well with and we're very proud of. I'd like to talk a little bit about, because I'm involved with our business customers. I'm what we call non-residential. And California has what we call a loading order. It isn't just the order to do things. We look at the loading order and how it also affects our incentive programs, because we have ratepayer funded incentive programs like Ijari's or like mine or like our energy efficiency to help customers, to help incentivize customers to put in more efficient pieces of equipment to reduce their energy cost. So when we're talking about the loading order, we recommend doing energy efficiency first for the reason I already stated. It's a permanent energy savings. Then once you are as efficient as possible in your facility, you look at conservation. Are there things you can just work harder, work smarter and not harder? And then I don't have it in here and I should have added it, but this is one I grabbed off of another website. Between conservation and demand response fits in our distributed generation programs, like people who want to do solar or want to do, if they have the ability to do wind, or Ijari's permanent load shift program. Any of those other forms of generation, if you will, are ways to reduce load from our peak hours. We recommend that those are installed prior to moving forward with demand response, because demand response is temporary load relief. So if I'm going to offer incentives to automate those temporary load reductions, we want to make sure that the customers have already installed their efficient equipment or are hooked up with their solar, things like that. Because once you put in the more efficient equipment, you put in that solar, you're going to reduce the available load that you can drop when we ask you to for that temporary grid or load relief. So it allows our program incentives to go further because we don't have someone getting this huge energy and demand response incentive and then doing all this energy efficiency distributed generation. So your load went from here to here. We already would like your load here so we can see what you can drop beyond that for demand response. That makes sense? What is demand response? I'll just read the top paragraph. I hate reading directly off the slides. Sometimes when demand exceeds supply, or when electricity costs are high, or when the state's electrical system is constrained, SCE will ask and pay for customers to voluntarily reduce their electricity. We do have residential programs. We have business programs. I'm on the business side. If any of you have residential questions, please give me your information or take mine. I'll be more than happy to put you in touch with somebody who can assist you with your residential needs as well. We have tons of great programs. And so demand response, we have rates, which is an actual tariff, like what you're billed on. And then we have voluntary programs. We have programs that give very good incentives, but if you don't reduce to certain levels, there can be penalties involved. We have a lot of different options for customers. We want to make sure we can optimize our offerings. Benefits of demand response, some of what Ijari already mentioned. It flattens the load profile. A lot of these peak demands can now be reduced. By doing that, we don't have to go out on the open market and buy more energy. We were just talking a few minutes ago about one of the demand response programs where we had a 5-hour event in February. It was raining where I was in Pomona. It was in the 50s. And we had a 5-hour event. People were thinking, well, it's cold out. Your energy grid isn't constrained. There aren't reliability issues. There's no fire. It's not 110 degrees out. Why did you call this event? Part of the reason we called the event was there was a huge freeze in the Midwest and East Coast. They needed more electricity. When that happened, the cost of natural gas skyrocketed. A lot of our energy that we purchase or make on our own, those plants are run by natural gas. So the cost became so excessive for natural gas that that would have ended up having to be put back into the rates in the future. And so we called a demand response event to help reduce our load so we didn't need that extra energy. So we didn't have to go buy it. Which, by doing that, it also reduces generator market power. We're not going to run into a lot of situations like we had. You're all familiar with the company called Enron? And if you haven't seen the documentary, The Smartest Guys in the Room, I really recommend you watch it. Not only to see what Enron was doing, but just to, there was a gaming going on of the market. There are now safeguards in place that that won't happen again. But the fact is, Enron owned generators who made energy, or they had contracts with them, and they have recorded phone conversations of them calling and saying, find a reason to shut down, because they wanted to elevate the cost of electricity so they could make more money. Well, by these demand response programs, we can help limit that. Oh, not quite yet, I'm sorry. Now, the other thing again is enhanced grid reliability. Right now, you'll know there's some fires down in San Diego and San Marcos in the Carlsbad area. That's not our service territory, that's San Diego's. But when you have an instance like a natural disaster like that or excessive heat, we can call these events, which will help us reduce the load on the power grid, because if you lose the power line, you have to provide energy to that service territory through other power lines. Now all of a sudden you've got an excess of energy crossing those power lines and you have risk of additional failures. Demand response helps to reduce that risk. We also support renewable energy, because what happens during the day with your solar? Well, you're using less energy because you're using the sun. But what happens when there's cloud cover? What happens when it starts getting dark? The energy peaks back up again. So demand response can help offset those peaks. So again, system reliability. We also reduce emissions. What is the cleanest piece of energy? It's the energy you don't use. The less energy you have to buy, the less energy you consume, it makes the world a cleaner place. And finally, it also reduces generator maintenance. This is a simple graph that I really like. Demand response events can be day